Because I'm just drinking that one. Yeah.
You said it is the one that's going to disappear the fastest. You're not kidding.
Hey everybody, we are here to talk about the next Club Box wines. This is a wine region that I'm super passionate about. It's a place that is emerging as one of the most interesting places in the US to grow grapes and make wines, and that is the Columbia Gorge. And we usually like to assign a state to the wines we're talking about from the US. We usually say, oh, this is a Washington wine, or this is a California wine. Well, guess what? The Gorge, you get a little bit of both. The Gorge spans the Columbia River on both sides of the river, on the Washington side and the Oregon side. So we have really interesting wines from a variety of elevations, from a variety of locations, and from 2 different states, but all one region. That's Columbia Gorge, and that's why we're calling this release Gorgeous Wines. And we have Ashley Rodriguez here. Ashley's a cookbook author. Ashley has been a partner with us back in the day when we first got started at Crunchy Red Fruit. If you've been a member since 2020, you would have gotten some of Ashley's recipes in one of your first boxes. And so just so happy to have Ashley back here with us again. So thanks for joining in. We're starting today with Teutonic Gruner Veltliner. Gruner Veltliner, why are we growing Gruner Veltliner in the Gorge? Well, Gruner Veltliner is a grape from Austria. It is grown right on the banks of the Danube River in places like Krimstal and Kamptal and the Wachau, and just so turns out that Gruner does really well in the Columbia Gorge too. This is made by Teutonic. They're a small producer, makes wine in Willamette Valley and also in the Columbia Gorge, and this is their 2022 Pear Blossom Vineyard Gruner Veltliner. Gruner should be a little vegetal, a little floral, a little bit of dandelion, and like some clean citrusy and tree fruit like apple and pear. And I like this wine. This is really cool. It's dry, it's brisk.
Yeah, it is really dry. I'm just tasting it, brought me to this dish, and tarte flambe. I was like, I can't remember the name. And then all of a sudden it came. Have you had tarte flambe?
Tarte flambe, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so like this light, it's like a cross almost between like a savory tart and a pizza. I think it could stand up to some creme fraiche, some sliced onion on this. It gets baked, but it's it has that like some buttery richness that I think this could hold up to that.
So that's Teutonic Gruner Veltliner. Can't wait for you to try it. Landmass is the only winery that I think that we're aware of making wine in all different styles of sparkling winemaking. So they're making in the traditional champagne method, they're making a Charmat method, which is what this is. In the same way that they make Prosecco, they're making Petnat, and they're also carbonating wine. So really interesting, fun stuff. This is Tempranillo. It's called Heavy Glow, and it's made into a sparkling rosé from the Columbia Gorge. This wine, to me, is just pure, scrumptious, riverside drinking deliciousness in the sun, or the slight sun and clouds, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
When I think about Washington weather, maybe a little bit before
maybe
we get
it's raining, maybe it's snowing. We're still drinking this. All right, maybe this. Okay, so I always wondered, because I love sparkles, bubbles, but do you swirl sparkles as well? Because then I'm always afraid of losing some of the bubbles. But
if there's something for this wine to offer when you swirl it, yes. Some of the cheapest and most insipid Proseccos and Cavas that are, things that are $6 or $7 a bottle, they probably aren't going to do anything for you when you swirl them.
Okay.
This one, to me, you get a lot of that red fruit, that lovely cranberry and huckleberry, fresh red fruit, things you pick in a forest on a slightly damp day.
The first thing I thought of is, and maybe this is because you painted such a beautiful picture of sitting by the river, but just give me a bag of potato chips and a bottle of this sitting by the river. I'm like,
that's all you need.
Maybe a nice we could have some creme fraiche and caviar with said potato chips
100%,
by the river.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to pop this in a picnic basket. This is so delicious.
Rarely do bubbly rosés taste like you took a really brisk, bright, dry rosé and just added bubbles to it. That's kind of what this is, though. It doesn't taste like rosé champagne that's really toasty and rich and leesy, and it doesn't taste like a cheap rosé cava. This tastes like something that is just fresh, dry, minerally, bright, and then you're adding that wonderful bubbly component to it. This is Landmass's Heavy Glow. This is probably going to be the bottle that disappears fastest of all the wines that are in your box, but we love it for that reason. It's delicious and crispy and perfect for sunny weather. This next wine is a dry rosé. This is the 2022 Double Trouble. It is a rosé of Grenache. and it comes from the gorge. And I think this is so illustrative of what the gorge is capable of, because in this same release we have grapes from Georgia, we have grapes from Austria, we have grapes from Spain, and Grenache, of course, is a Spanish grape from central Spain, and it really likes warm climate. It likes heat, it likes a long growing season. It's usually harvested late, but if you harvest your Grenache just a little bit early, you can make a dry rosé with it, which is what Double Trouble did here, where you're going to get that red fruit of Grenache, that strawberry, but you're also going to get the tanginess and a little bit more of the white pepper and rosemary.
Yeah, there is that spiciness.
Yeah.
Ooh, you know what'd be good? Cacio e pepe.
Oh my gosh, what a great call.
Right?
Yeah, I love that.
Like that farmy pecorino, that bright pop of pepper. I watched Anthony Bourdain's his episode on Restaurant X. He wouldn't even name the restaurant in Rome because he didn't want people to like go and like just
to go ruin it.
just go ruin it. But they would serve their cacio e pepe in like Parmesan frico, so a bowl of like crisp Parmesan.
Oh my God.
It's dangerous. So that recipe is in my first book.
Sounds like a great time. Okay, really fun opportunity here. Jeff was dropping off our special private label bottled Gamay, which is made by his winery, Gorge East. Jeff's here with us. He's a winemaker for WT Vintners, and also this new project, which is focused solely on gorge fruit. And if you're a Crunchy Red Fruit 6 bottle member, you were the only ones getting this special bottling of the Gamay. He only had enough to make it into the 6 bottles, which is really cool. And that's what this is. This is a bottle just for fruit, and it even says it on there. We have our own label, so check it out. Jeff, do you want to talk about a little bit about your project and about this wine in particular and what led you to make it?
Yeah, I started tinkering in the gorge with some Gruner Veltliner in 2012, and then in 2017 I started working with a vineyard above the town of White Salmon called Rainmaker. They did a custom planting of Gamay for us, as well as a bit more Gruner Veltliner, and then are growing Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. So all of a sudden we had a whole bunch of gorge wines, and from this really extraordinary place, a tremendous amount of Gamay. Eventually, the vines are young, but as you'll see, the purity of fruit, the freshness, it's really a really singular vineyard site with this kind of alpine freshness that is so unlike the rest of Washington that with our original intention of it being a part of WT Vintners made no sense. So Gorge East was born, and it's just super, what are we calling it, lo-fi winemaking, low SO2, spontaneous everything, really trying to capture the essence of place, vintage, and variety.
Like Jeff said, that sort of alpine fruit comes out a lot. It feels like you're walking through the forest and picking like salal berries and knuckleberries and cranberries, and they're all kind of coming forth in the palate.
Yeah, it is. It's like this is what I love in a red. Like it's light and complex, and there's so many different ways that you can take it. And for some reason, my head is on like a roast chicken, and maybe with a really special. In my book, I have a roast chicken with a spring onion and morel cream sauce, where you just like stew those spring onions and morels for a really, really long time and then slather it over roast chicken. So it feels special, because this wine feels special.
Jeff, thank you so much for agreeing to do this special bottling for us. It's really cool. This wine's beautiful, and there's just no more left. So thanks for being a member and being in position to get a bottle like this. So I hope you enjoy it. We've tasted some awesome wines here, but I really want to focus in on Ashley and the amazing work you're doing and the books you're in the process of writing and the books that just came out. This one specifically, just at a cursory glance, what an incredible book Rooted Kitchen is. Do you want to talk a little bit about it and kind of the story behind it?
Yeah, so it just came out at the beginning of March. I've been working in food for like 2 decades now, which is crazy. I really started spending more time outdoors. I got fascinated with foraging and really started making this connection of when I'm paying attention to what's happening in the natural world, I feel better on like spiritually, mentally, physically, all of it, and how well that connects with my passion and excitement for food. And so this book, it's very, very seasonal, and it's a way of using food as a way of deepening your connection to the earth, which I feel like is so in line with wine and winemakers because like the best winemakers are absolutely out there paying attention on a daily basis. What's happening with the weather, what's happening with the vines, what's happening with the grapes in order to get the absolute best product. And that is all leads to this idea of how connected we are and how much it all makes a difference. I feel like it's a soft invitation for people to, if they've never foraged before, there's some great tips and tricks for getting out there, finding some wild ingredients.
Can't wait to dig in and cook some of those recipes. You're also working on a book about forage mushrooms, is that right?
Yeah. So
cool.
I have become an eager forager. And so in the fall, I have a book on Pacific Northwest mushrooms coming out.
Yeah.
So it's
incredible.
Obviously my love of mushrooms, as so many of it, how it starts for so many people, like, okay, what can I eat? What can I go out and find that I can eat? And so I want to help dispel the fungophobia that I feel like is so prevalent in our culture and get people excited about all sorts of mushrooms. And we live in such an incredible place. Like there's mushrooms almost everywhere.
Really special. This wine, I think of when we talk about earthy notes and forest notes, wow, this wine's got a lot of them. This is a Tinto coming from Analemma. And Analemma was one of the first gorge-specific producers that I was ever aware of. They kind of started with Syrah, Pinot, French grapes, but they've been gravitating a little bit more towards Spanish grapes because they're getting this beautiful confluence of heat and cold there that can lengthen the growing season and do really cool things with grapes like Tempranillo, Mencia, and Grenache. And so this is a blend of those three grapes. Big spiciness of Grenache. It's highlighting this sort of earthiness and leathery qualities in Tempranillo. There's a lovely peppery, smoky note coming from the Mencia. And man, this wine's interesting. It's so in-depth. It's just shy of a full-bodied wine. It's rich and powerful, but it's not big and oaky.
So I have a kale rabe stew with chickpeas and coconut milk. That with a little like chili flake has a nice pepperiness that it's like that perfect, like you're eating kind of the flowery bits of the vegetable, so it still feels a little springy, but it's still a little chilly, and I feel like that would be really lovely with this.
I love this Analemma Tinto. This is a special one from the winery that we tasted a whole lineup. Their wines were incredible across the board. This wine's out of control.
Yeah, it's really special.
It's really fun stuff. Have you ever had a Saperavi before? That's the question. And chances are most wine drinkers have not. This is a grape that is not from the places we typically think of grapes coming from. We think about French grapes, Italian grapes, Spanish grapes. Well, this is a Georgian grape, and not Georgia the state, but Georgia the country. Who'd have thought we'd have found Saperavi growing here in our own backyard in the Columbia Gorge? But our friend Jeff, who is a winemaker for Golden Cluster, this is his wine, the 2021 Paint, Dye, and Give Color Saperavi. And that's the reason he called it that. As a Saperavi is a Terroirs grape, which means that the skins and the juice are both colored. They're both red. Most red wine grapes have clear juice and clear pulp, but this one actually has dark pulp, which is, wow, this is a dark, very purpley wine. He's fermenting and aging this wine in big clay amphoras that he buys from A.D. Beckham, who is a winemaker, but he's also a pottery professor in Oregon, and so he makes the amphoras, these big clay vessels. So Jeff at Golden Cluster has been buying these amphora and doing the traditional Georgian style of macerated winemaking with amphora buried in the ground. Really grapey, really meaty, intense, dark, lush, purple. All the things about intense red wine that I can think of apply to this.
Have you ever had those chicken and a biscuit crackers?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? That like super umami, and there's like a little like seafood funk in this as well. It is.
Yeah, furikake, like.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Like a little.
So like a little like the tide's been out on a hot summer day, so it's like a little of that funky.
It's earthy, it's muddy, it's a little dank, but in like a appetizing way. Really.
Yes, I don't know how to describe it, but it's that combination of like buttery and funky.
I want to have like big burgers, like big pub burgers, not super refined smashed burgers with pickles, onions, but like pub burger with like blue cheese and caramelized onions.
I was just gonna say like the kind of burger
sauce.
where it's just like meat and cheese and onions.
Yeah, all that meatiness, or like barbecue pork sandwiches would be killer with this, or ribs or brisket. But that's me. Where does it take you? I'm curious.
Yeah, I was almost the exact same. Although I'm I would do a steak, and right now I'm dreaming of morel, so I would do a morel sauce and some frites on the side.
Well, that is Jeff's saperavi. Again, something very unique. You're not going to see grown very much here in the U.S. at all, because there just isn't very much of it. There's only a couple acres here and there, and this is one of the vineyards that's growing it. Gosh, what a fun lineup. Thank you for being a member of the club and getting these wines. Ashley, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. This has absolutely opened my mind and my taste buds to what's coming out of the gorge. This is so exciting.
We hope you discover something new in this release. And again, thanks for being part of Crunchy Red Fruit. Come see us at the shop if you're ever in Seattle. Cheers, everyone.